Hi, Dr. Marraccini.
I'm your professional fitness coach, Roy Jeffrey.
And we are Menno Strong.
Hello, everyone, and welcome back to another episode of Menno Strong. I'm Roy Jeffrey.
I'm Linda Marraccini, board-certified family physician. We do know that from the last podcast that 6,000 women go through menopause every day. So this podcast, we want to talk about various hormones and their functions. We did touch on estrogen, testosterone, and progesterone, and we're going to mention them again. Today we'll mention a few others, beginning with thyroid hormone, for example. Thyroid hormone affects the balance and the strength of muscle mass and balance of metabolism. And now we all know thyroid has to do with our metabolism because people talk all the time about, oh, my thyroid's too low. Mostly their thyroid is too low. Nobody says, oh my God, I've got overactive thyroid and my weight is fine. Nobody ever says their weight is fine, for example. They always say their thyroid's too low and they must need some thyroid. But in the realm of talking about muscle and strength, thyroid is very important for muscle mass and function. And it's very important that we have thyroid hormone in balance, but also understand that it is a feedback. So it's very important that the muscles are working properly for the thyroid to be working properly. Do you want to comment on that, Roy?
Well, I agree with you 100%. And while we go over these different hormones, we're going to talk about ways to combat some of these symptoms that you get from these hormones being dropping in levels. So as we continue talking about a topic, I'm going to give out things that you can do physically through exercise, through meditation, whatever it is, and we'll get through this together.
So it's not about just taking medication or taking hormones to stimulate what we call a feedback loop. For example, exercise will stimulate your growth hormone and testosterone. So growth hormone, for example, is a primary pituitary hormone. The pituitary is the base of your skull. And the growth hormone is comprised of 191 amino acids. It's very important to do the proper type of exercise to stimulate your growth hormone. And people are out there also taking growth hormone, but it's not a great idea to take growth hormone unless you know about the balance of all the different hormones. Similarly, testosterone can be stimulated without taking what we call exogenous testosterone. That means taking it artificially. You can stimulate it, again, by the proper exercise. Now, all this changes in different stages of life. What works for a younger person doesn't always work for the older person. And I always say to Roy, it's not working for me the same way as when I was 30. Right. And maybe you want to comment on that. So different types of repetitions and weights, the amount of weight is different when we're younger.
Well, yeah, and while we're on the topic of testosterone, when you are training to build your testosterone levels, heavy weight resistance training is very important. Now, I know based on my experience that a lot of women do not want to lift heavier weight for maybe the fear of feeling or looking masculine, or maybe they just don't want to go through the struggle, but it's very important that you do. And not only doing heavy resistance training, but you also have to do compound lifts, which are lifts that combine different movements, different muscles. And not only that, when it comes to heavy weight, you have to do what's called progressive overload. And progressive overload is just basically once you reach a certain level to whereas, let's say 50 pounds is become very easy, or you're more efficient in it. Now we need to add weight so that it forces your body to add muscle to you, or to increase testosterone production. Another thing that's important that you can do is HIIT exercise, which is a high intensity interval training. Now, I know it's not for everyone, but there are different ways that it can be done. Everyone doesn't have to jump on a box. Everyone doesn't have to do pull-ups and things, but there are different ways in order to do those type of exercises that also stimulates testosterone while improving insulin sensitivity. And also basically doing power-based workouts. I mean, you can push sleds. I have clients pushing sleds in the studio indoors, but in kettlebell workouts, those power-based workouts will also force your body to produce testosterone.
Well, and as we mentioned, I believe we touched on this last time, but you do have to engage your big muscles of your lower body. So you can't just go, say, walking and say you're going to do your upper body. You have to do some resistance training with your lower body. It was shown that there's 4 times the production of testosterone and growth hormone by engaging lower body muscles. So whether that's, if you can't manage anything else and you have to put some weights on your lower legs, the wraparound weights, and do straight leg raises, but it's always better to do it either with a trainer online or to at least get a few training sessions to have some guidance and do it properly. So again, and maybe Roy touched on about the proper exercise, not to do it rushing and etc.
Well, I mean, when you talk about the legs exercise, 99.9%, I'll say 0.8%, of my clients, they are doing leg exercises. I always tell them that's important. They're going to burn more calories when you utilize those bigger muscles of the lower body. So you train with me, you're going to do legs most of the time when you're with me in terms of the duration or the frequency of your workout. So that is very important. And I can't stress enough that we're going to push through when we set forth a plan, and we know what we want to do, and we set forth a plan. You just have to tighten up and know that it's going to be heavy weight involved, because we want to improve the testosterone production of your body to help, whether it's we're trying to build muscle, or in this case, when we talk about testosterone, us being able to allow you to produce more of it.
And remember, it's not about just, which we're going to touch on, about giving you what's called exogenous hormones, meaning writing your prescription, getting you other things that, for example, there's supplements that can convert to estrogen and testosterone that you can buy over the counter. It's not just about that. It's about stimulating your own body's production of estrogen, testosterone by the exercise you do. And besides, you need that to help you with your balance. We can't forget to touch on balance, which really is terrible as we get older. And working on your core is going to help your balance. Working all the muscle groups is going to help your balance. And as we're getting older, and I'm sorry for you younger people, but you're going to have balance problems as you get older.
Absolutely.
But everything that has to do with your complete workout, even as younger people, is going to add to your health as you get older. So balance is very important. But again, the complete workout is going to add to your internal production of hormones. And then that goes on to dopamine and serotonin, our happy hormones, the feel-good hormones.
Yes.
So dopamine's our feel-good hormone, and then serotonin has to do with also mood and appetite, and it balances that out, but again, stimulated by exercise. And sometimes you get into a lull, and it's hard to pull yourself out of depression when those hormones go down, and if you can just get yourself doing even a minor routine, it's helpful.
Well, let's first talk about dopamine. Again, progress-based training is very important, because it helps to boost the dopamine, and especially when you pretty much can see what your workout is going to consist of. And once you reach the end of the workout, if you completed the workout, you get those. So I always recommend that. We in the studio, I often have some do boxing. Not necessarily dancing, but I always recommend clients, if they enjoy dancing is good. It gets those the brain reward system moving, and those celebration moments help you to feel better, or it gives you those happy hormones, those feel good hormones when you are accomplishing moments in your life. Like if you decide to go for a long bike ride event, and or if you're doing any kind of marathon, half marathon, 5K, 3K, whatever, but the sense of accomplishing that gives you those great hormones. And then with the serotonin, there's a different thing that you can do, which is called steady state cardio, which is that you're going for a steady pace when you're working out, and that can be a walk or doing swimming, which improves serotonin. And so then as well, there are those outdoor moments that you can participate in, which enhances serotonin, from the sunlight. So there are a lot of things that we can do that we do not do. Some people don't like to be in the sun, or maybe you shouldn't be in the sun, maybe for purposes of your skin or whatever. There's ways that you can get that taken care of. Another one that's very important is doing breathing exercises. This is very important, which a lot of people miss out and they don't participate in. Like, who has time to breathe? But but we need to take time out to learn to breathe properly, because that also gives us a calm that we need as individuals, but it will help a lot when you're going through menopause. So it's the breathing, it's the recovery, using recovery tools such as foam rollers. You can get a massage or something like that. Those things are very important. And did I mention yoga? Yoga is very important.
Not yet. Well, we've got some later podcasts that'll address some of those things.
Absolutely.
Because it takes a lot to address them completely.
Right. So yoga as well is very good, which also goes along with deep breathing. So that's my spiel when it comes to dopamine and serotonin that can help people who are going through perimenopause and menopause.
Well, and somewhat linked to that, I also suggest, and I say this to a lot of patients, sometimes the goal is too big. So they put out there, I'm going to go do a whole exercise class of an hour, or I have to go out and walk for an hour. And now I've done the converse suggestion. I said, you know what? Go out for 10 minutes. Don't make the goal so big. Tell yourself you're going to go out for 10 minutes, and this way you've gone out for 10 minutes. Maybe when you get out there, you might go 15 minutes, and that's great. Because sometimes if you go for 10 minutes and you go for a little longer, you've still done something more than not going at all. You know how they say half the success is showing up. So I think creating too big a goal makes you feel that you've failed. So it's better just to go out and do a little something. I sometimes will go out and walk with something called a TED Talk, or something that'll just keep me entertained because I've gotten tired of my music. But anything that'll get me out there, or go to a gym that has or some place that has a Zumba class. And guess what? I'll walk in that Zumba class, and I've told many patients this. I'll go to the back of the room. I don't care who sees me. If I do 20 minutes, don't listen, Roy, 20 minutes out of 50 minutes, and I walk out, I pat myself on the back and I said, I would never have gone. And I did 20 minutes of that, and I listened to that person screaming the class, jiving in the front. I can't do half of those steps that all those people that have been doing it forever can do. But I at least did 20 minutes. So start with a smaller goal, and then it can get you into it. And you still would do a little cardio if you went to the Zumba, or something with the walking, and that might get you started. And the other thing is, when you're on your way home, the best thing to do is get the clothes on before you set your foot. You don't get in the door, because once you're home, you're not going to do the exercise.
Yeah, well, set the bar low.
Sometimes you have to set the bar low.
You have to set the bar low.
Depending on your, how you feel.
If you think a little too much and go, too high, you may not be equipped to do that. But if you set the bar low, you accomplished something, and it was already accomplishable with 10 minutes or 15 minutes. But there has been study that shows that you can break your workout in throughout the day and still accomplish the same thing one would as they did all at one time. So start that way. You don't have to do it all in one time. Just chew piece by piece.
And like, there's people that work hybrid, and they work part of the time at home, and maybe they can do 10 minutes at lunchtime. It kind of gives them a fresh look on life. They get a little more energy for the rest of their day, not falling asleep while they're trying to work and be on a computer all day. So that's another way to look at it. So a really important hormone is cortisol. So that's your fight or flight hormone. That's the one that, in the primitive animal, that their eyes, dilate, they're ready to run. And cortisol, that's associated with high blood sugar levels, but the cortisol can burn you out. So that is, if you have too much cortisol, too much fight or flight, that burns you out. That's associated with adrenal stress. You don't want to be in a high cortisol state all the time, which is why you also don't want to do too much high intensity exercise at one time. That's why exercise should be a little more moderate. That's why they've started more recommending this this intensity training where you go from cardio to weights, not just crazy amount of cardio all the time. But cortisol, high levels of cortisol create what's called a catabolic state, which means you start breaking down muscle. Now that occurs also in a high stress situation. That's why you break down muscle. You have in general diminishing of functions, even brain function. So it's important, if you've had a chronic illness, you're going to get in a high cortisol state, a catabolic state. So after a intense illness or high stress situation, it's important to kind of regroup and bring yourself back into a small amount to a moderate amount of exercise, maybe under some guidance. And you can help to regenerate your hormones and try to get that cortisol level back down.
I guess that's why, like you said, when people, if a person gets sick or cold or flu and they come back and they've lost a lot of weight or something like that, their body goes into that. Is that what you're saying as well?
Yeah, and they don't realize that sometimes it takes a little bit to recoup. We see this with people who have been in the hospital for a while, that have had some of these monumental, and even post-surgery, post-anesthesia. So don't take it for granted that you don't need some help, and to build up, your happy hormones again. So it's important to take inventory, ask for help, and have a program so that you can get healthy again. And again, you can do it little by little, even on your own, but it's not something you're imagining that you're depleted. So this can come from not only just a surgical procedure, but anesthesia really takes its toll.
So while we're talking about cortisol, we're talking about what it does for the body. One of the things that I would always say when it comes to training is not to overtrain. It's good that you don't push yourself overboard. 100% for me is not 100% for her. Her 100% is her 100%, and yours is yours. And so if I do my workout of 100% and I'm fine, and I get her to do the same workout that I did at 100%, she's going to overtrain.
Yeah.
Or get hurt. And so my point here is you don't want to overtrain. You want to include some days that are low intensity days, low intensity exercises. They don't always have to be over the top. And that happens with a lot of younger people. And there are some younger people that have actually gotten really sick from overtraining so much and not realize it. So that's one thing you don't want to do to kind of get this cortisol over the top. But strength training moderately doesn't hurt as well. And like I recently just said, that using recovery tools is very good. Doing breath work, doing cold therapy helps, and also getting massages. So you also have to give yourself time to unwind. Once you have done your training, you get your rest, you allow yourself to do what a lot of people don't do, and that's cool down. Cool down is very important, and after a good training session, you should do that. I have clients that we separate the days in between their workouts. So they might work out Monday, and I tell them, hey, I want you to do this, which is usually a low intensity walk or something like that on that next day, and then I'll see them the day after that. So your body definitely needs that, because you don't want to be over drawn with cortisol all the time.
Well, I think you reminded me of a point, which is stretching. And whether yoga program or a stretching program, I see a lot of people do cardio weights, and then they kind of, like you say, they're overtrained because they just think it's all cardio weights, and then they're complaining of muscle cramps and things like that. And also get into hydration, nutrition even prior to your exercise, hydration prior to your exercise. You've got to feed the machine. So that's important. And not to forget, of course, proper sleep, not shortchanging yourself, because it's shown that you really need 7 to 9 hours of sleep to prevent dementia. So you might be 30 years old and think that, you can get it by and you're burning the candle at both ends, as they say. but it'll catch up with you. Now the jury's kind of out on whether you can do less sleep in one period and then make up a nap some other time, if you can have a total of that amount of sleep or not. So, the circadian rhythm, and our ability to replenish ourselves. Remember, sleep helps you, not only it helps your immune system, but it helps your all your other hormones get back into balance as well.
And as a de-stressor within itself, making sure that you get sleep, relaxation, or you can build stress by not having enough sleep. And so that's very important as well. These hormones as a whole, and the advice that we're giving you is to help you get those under control, to deal with the symptoms that you receive when you're going through menopause or perimenopause.
So keep those questions coming, and those suggestions or anything you would like to hear from us, and we'll do our best to answer your questions and help you out.
And we have a lot in store for you guys. I promise you, we are talking about this like every day, and we're putting these things down. We're looking for people to join us on the show, and I'm constantly speaking with my clients and being more focused on their needs and more focused on the things that they are experiencing, and that's important to me. So like she says, leave a comment. You can share with her if you know her personally, me personally. Share those things, because you could help someone else out in the long run when we bring those topics up, right?
Yep. It's for all of us.
Absolutely. What I want to do is let everyone know in the next podcast, I will talk about some of these exercises. So that if I tell you compound lifts, and you're going to be like, what is a compound lift? So I'm going to go over some of these things on the next podcast to share with you, just demonstrations, and I hope they are helpful for you in your quest to feel better and live in the current you that you're living in.
Psst, spoiler alert. Join me on the next episode when I will be exploring the pelvic floor, where I'll be just touching on things such as the anatomy and diaphragmatic breathing and simple exercises you should be doing right now. Don't miss out.